Welcome to First Geek 411's book club. I am super excited to be talking about one of the heaviest novels on my shelf, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Chapters 1 to 35.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first half of
Indeed.
the book.
First half.
Indeed.
Before we get started, you can find us on all the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as OneGeek411. Come join our Discord server or shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Watch live on our Twitch every Monday night at 6:45 Mountain Time and find all our videos over on YouTube. And also check out our Redbubble store. I'm Shanine, and with me I have Emma.
Hi. My Spotify is working this time, so I have nice background music as an ADHD person to go with book club. So I'm happy about that.
Yay. And Cameron.
Hello, hello. I'm ready. We're going to have things to talk about today.
We indeed have things to speak on.
All right. To synopsize the first half of this novel, Mr. Norrell is the last practical magician in England in the early 1800s, and if you ask him, the state of magic nowadays is just abominable. It should be more popular. But also, he's the only one who should be able to do magic. Norrell attempts to get on the good side of various government officials through various means until succeeding by raising Sir Walter's young fiancée from the dead, totally by his own magic, and definitely not enlisting the aid of a fairy because fairies are obviously shady troublemakers.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Clearly.
Obviously. This fairy claims half of the young woman's life and comes to collect by taking her away to his fairy kingdom every night, as well as a servant that he has taken a shine to. We also have Jonathan Strange, who can't commit to anything in his life until he discovers his calling to magic via a prophecy from Norrell's arch nemesis. Norrell and Strange are at odds upon first meeting, but soon become teacher and pupil. They also become of more use to the English government in the war by doing magic such as creating naval illusions out of rain and moving the occasional forest out of the way. When Strange returns from war to England, he cannot cure King George from his madness using magic, but he does save him from being taken by a particular fairy. We end our first part with someone apparently impersonating Strange to give people magic lessons via letters for a price.
Which is very bed knobs and broomsticks.
Yeah.
Never seen that one.
That's all I remember about it. Is one person is is learning magic by mail.
There's literally a flying bed with
Okay.
In the cover.
the bed knobs on the posts. You twist them, and they're magic, and that's what makes the bed fly.
See, did not remember that.
It's a very similar vibe to the one with the three witch sisters.
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus. It's a very similar vibe to that movie. Just not as good.
Okay. I accept that.
All right. So, of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, give your first half 3-word review.
It's very slow.
What is happening?
Slow, but intriguing.
I remember why I didn't finish this book.
Yeah. I'll save things for future questions.
All right. To begin expounding on that, what are all y'all's thoughts on the setting and world building?
I mean, setting, I'm always a fan of things set in 1800s England. In general. Should be a general given. Um, but I'm just mildly confused on this kind of like urban fantasy take of that era, because it's like trying to add a touch of fantasy to real life, but in a way that doesn't really blend, in my opinion. It's
Uh,
just like added on top of.
I'll say, generally speaking, I like the more fantastical take on England and all of that. It kind of feels like a Doctor Who episode to me. Um, at least like in terms of like the Doctor shows up. There are these two people that are practicing magic, and like he has to figure out the mystery of what's going on, and like, yeah, it kind of feels like a Doctor Who episode. Um, it's a fun, different take, but yeah.
Yeah. I, like Emma, am also always super up for anything set in England 1800s. Um, and I don't know, I think the world is fun, just like not the whole world isn't super magical, but it is there. It's part of their history, and it's very proper magic, very very British magic. Um, um, yeah. What do you all think of the magic system?
I love a completely ill-defined magic system.
Yep.
Of like, how does magic work in this world? Literally no explanation. Just for
It
some
it just
reason.
does.
Yeah, like there's like a side of it that like, yes, fairies are involved, fairies can help, all of those kinds of things. You referenced that in the recap. But then there's like the other side of it that is just like someone wrote down some stuff, and I guess it does a spell sometimes for specific people, and I guess that's the magic system. Like,
There's some kind of academic side to it as well.
yeah, it's like it's
What
so
exactly
ill
that is, we're
defined.
not gonna say.
Yeah, so ill defined. I have no clue how it works, and I'm in.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
Yeah.
it being so ill defined is probably my favorite part. Like,
Yeah. I love when books and worlds create like some sort of system or unique thing for how magic works, but it is also fun when they just go it just happens. It's just a thing. Um cuz like I'm thinking of the Aragon books where there's magic, but in order to produce a magical spell, you have to use energy, like pools of energy that you can put into like a ring or something. And some spells use more energy than others, and those are the more powerful ones, or whatever. And then there's something like Harry Potter, where it's just like, as long as you cast it through a wand, you're good. Unless you don't, in which case you're really powerful. And I was just like, that makes no sense, but okay. And then there's this. It's just like, it just works. It's just here. We're gonna half think about this. And that's fun.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the magic system a lot in that the methods are like, yeah, like you said, very ill defined and different for seemingly everything as well.
mm-hmm.
Um, like Mr. Strange seems to do magic very differently from how Mr. Norrell does magic. Um, Sometimes there's objects and things involved, and sometimes it seems like there is not, and sometimes there's spells, and sometimes they're just like doing stuff. I don't know. Um, and then, like Emma mentioned, like in Aragon using like energy and stuff. There, I love how I don't think I love it. I just I have noticed there is like zero cost for magic
Mm-hmm.
in this world. There's a cost for being
Yeah.
involved with fairies,
Yes, hey, unless you get a
but
fairy involved,
but
then
for just doing magic, it You do it and that's it.
If you do it yourself, you're all good. If you get a third party involved, you better watch out.
Um, and yes, speaking of fairies, what is everyone's thoughts on the different kingdoms and the fairies being part of this world?
I mean, I feel like it hasn't really come into play a whole lot. It's just been a little brief explanation of like, oh yeah, these other places exist. Of like, we're set in England, but we're gonna add a couple of additional planes of existence to the world, and we're not gonna really do anything with them. But it's kind of where the fairies hang out. They aren't on Earth. They're just over here. Kind of like how the tree works in Norse mythology. So it's fun, but it's just that we're just here. There's a couple of extra branches.
Yeah, at least from the information that we have so far, like I think this is really interesting. It seems to be like one of the driving mysteries that we have so far, and especially in a world with such ill-defined magic systems, of like we have a lot of the like what is even real, and so it's like, are there these multiple kingdoms? If there are, how many total kingdoms could there be? What's the effects? Like all of that kind of stuff. And I really like that idea. I really like the idea too that like the fairies are tricksters, but it's not because they're trying to be tricky. It's because they just do whatever they want. Like,
Yep.
it's just like, oh, this is I agreed to this. Okay, well, I'm going to just do it like whatever I feel like there, because that'll be more silly. And so I like that side of it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, in this first half, there's definitely a lot of mystery around the fairy realm and like sinister consequences for the people that it is affecting in England. Um, and yeah, like you said, not necessarily that they're trying to be sinister. They're just fairies.
We're
They're
just having
just
fun.
trying to help.
Yeah.
Do you want a tiger? I'll get you a tiger.
I mean, what happens with
Whether or
it's not my
not
problem.
it
Like,
eats you is your own problem.
exactly.
Just sounds like a thing people would want.
Yeah.
All right. What is everyone's thoughts on Mr. Norrell?
I mean, he's 100% the bad guy, right? Like, there's no way he's the hero of this book. Also, it's bananas to me that we're 35 hours into this and I don't know who the villain is. But it's 100% Mr. Norrell, right? Like, it can't not be, right? He's literally out here like hoarding magic. Something bad's gonna happen, and people aren't gonna be able to stop it because Mr. Norrell's been hoarding magic the whole time. Like,
I would say Jonathan Strange is also a bit questionable, but yeah, pretty
like,
much.
yeah, I think Mr. Norrell is the most realistic person in this book. Of
Yeah.
like, if magic existed in our world, 100%, there would be this person that would have not told everyone it was real, and then they would have hoarded everything pertaining to it, and then they would be like, "Oh, just kidding, it actually is real. Oh, you're interested? Too bad."
You're gonna have
Like,
to go through me, and I say no.
and yeah, go through me, and I will not help. Like,
Yep. I'm
oh,
gonna gatekeep this thing
exactly.
that only I know about.
Oh, he's just like such an awful person. Like, not in like the actual like villainous way, which I think is like what makes it so bad. Of like going to like D&D alignments, he's like the most lawful evil person out there. Like, he's not out here like chaotically blowing things up or doing anything like that. He's just like, oh, this should have rules and those rules should benefit exclusively me. Like,
I'm gonna prove to you guys that this is real, and when I'm right, you have to all stop practicing magic forever, or studying magic, or whatever.
No, I'm inclined to agree with you, Cameron, because as I was prepping these notes, like, as you know, the usual layout is, what do you think of the main characters? What do you think of the villain? And I was like, who is the villain?
Yeah. I'm very curious to see where it goes, because I'm definitely right there with y'all. Norrell is sketchy. Strange is also a little bit sketchy, but
I don't disagree. Like,
we don't have enough on him yet because he shows up like several hundred pages in or whatever. Like, we've only had him for so long. We haven't had him for as long or whatever. But it's definitely like this could be a scenario of two evils coming to meet each other and making each other more evil by their own evil acts, and then everyone around them just sort of has to deal with the consequences of their being unfortunately not so good people. I do like with Mr. Norrell, I think it is kind of hilarious that at the beginning of the book he was so tired of that society of people just sort of existing that he was like, I'm gonna prove you wrong, and then you have to stop doing whatever it is you're doing. So go to this cathedral, and I'm gonna enchant all of the gargoyles to tell you what they've seen. And then there's just the one guy who's like, I'm not gonna sign the contracts. And he's like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. So like, yeah, that's fair. You've got some amount of reasonability in your bones.
I think one of the things that makes me the most suspicious of Mr. Norrell is that at the beginning, like the very beginning, I was totally on his side. Like, I literally have a note written down that I was like, oh, poor Mr. Norrell. He just wants to be left alone with his books. Like, I get it. Leave him alone. And now at like this halfway point, I'm like, dude, just like, could you share? Like, be nice for once.
Right.
Like,
could you do literally anything to be helpful?
Yeah.
And like anything that you do that is helpful, could it be not for the most selfish reasons? He literally sends Jonathan Strange off to war so he can get some books without Strange trying to get them. Like, I just, yeah. Oh man, I want to punch him so much in his dumb face.
Yep.
Well written character, A plus Susanna Clarke. Like,
yep.
If he's not the villain and you're gonna make me love him in the latter half of this book, well done. Like, you have completely tricked me. Like,
yeah.
Thoughts on Jonathan Strange?
It's definitely a little sketchy. They're both a little sketchy. He's a little sketchy because he feels very much like a newbie, like that kind of person as an adult who thinks they can walk right into something that they've never done before and instantly know everything about it, and suddenly they're a master. Like, I'm gonna take up this new thing, and suddenly 2 hours later, like, I am the world's leading expert on the thing. So he feels a little bit cocky in that regard, which is why he's sketchy. And it's like, that's not really how the world works, but okay. And I'm very curious to see where that goes. Because that also could go any number of directions. but it is fun to have that, like, that cockiness next to Norrell's stubbornness of being, well, no, actually, I'm the one who knows everything because I have all of the information. Literally, I have a monopoly on all of the information. So it's a good side by side comparison of like the old and the new.
Mm-hmm. Um, I like this idea of like, is Jonathan Strange a con man, or like, and this kind of goes to what Emma was saying of like, he has that energy of someone that just like shows up and it's like, I'm now gonna be the best at this because I'm here. But it's like he is really good. Like, I mean, it's not hard to be the best when there's only one other magician that we know of, and like, but like, I really like Jonathan Strange. Like, again, I don't know. Is he the villain? I don't know. Like,
Am I the villain?
yeah, is like, yeah.
Is
What
it
is
me?
happening
Am
here?
I the problem?
Does this tie in with Piranesi? We're gonna hopefully find out in the latter half of this book. Like,
Ooh, I hadn't even thought of that.
yeah, that there's some. That's some of my big question marks that I'm excited for the second half of like, because I've been trying to avoid looking anything up, and so, uh, but yeah, I like Jonathan Strange. I like his. I like that he feels much more like the people's magician, whereas Mr. Norrell feels like he's trying to be like an aristocrat, and like he wants to be at like the actual top of things so that he can be in control. Jonathan Strange feels like he's much more willing to like be helpful and like use his magic for the benefit of others, not just for himself. Is that an act? I mean, only the latter half of the book will confirm.
I think I like Jonathan Strange. I guess his use of magic just feels more scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mr. Norrell is very by the book, like very just like dry about it all. And Jonathan Strange is like, I found like this random sheet of paper. Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's
I will
just
say,
fun.
admittedly, like the names have definitely been throwing me for a loop because of things. But like, to go to an MCU example, Mr. Norrell feels like Doctor Strange, and Jonathan Strange feels like Tony Stark. Where like Jonathan Strange is just out here like, I don't know, I built it in a cave. Like, does it work? I don't know. Like, let's do some magic. Like,
Let's see how long until it blows me up.
like, we're here to have fun. Like,
Yeah. And yes, as Emma said, Jonathan did not show up. He was mentioned for the first time on page 160,
Yeah.
and his name occurred for the first time on page 161.
yeah.
And like, yes, it is like 1,000-page novel, but that's still a significant amount of time into the novel that we didn't have the person whose name is the first in the title.
Yep.
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 Did I think I was reading the wrong book for a while? Definitely.
Yes.
I was legitimately concerned that the library had the audiobook with the wrong file. Like,
Sounds about right.
yeah, I was like, oh, y'all uploaded the wrong one. This is just Mr. Norrell. Like,
Turns out Mr. Norrell is the sequel,
yeah.
which
like,
tells you everything about what happens at the end of the first one. Jonathan Strange does not make it.
Yeah, it was a lot of build up to this character that I'm like, I don't know if all of that was necessary. He could have been there maybe, but I don't know. I think he's interesting. I liked him in the beginning just because he seemed like a silly guy. Like he wasn't serious about anything, but like he was fun and charming and like, sure, why not? And now he's, I think, through like proving himself to England and that like he's actually quite competent doing magic things. I'm like, yeah, he's a good guy. He can do stuff. At this point, halfway through the novel, I trust him, and I'm sure that that will not come back to bite me in any way. Um, I'm
Not at all.
expecting him to be the hero, and we'll see how that goes.
I'm sure it's fine.
Everything's gonna be a-okay.
All right. What is everyone's thoughts on our fairy, the gentleman with the thistledown hair?
Oh, I want to be his best friend, and I am so scared of what being his best friend would entail.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
he seems so like legitimately kind, which like I think is the scariest part of his character. Like this kind of goes to like what I was saying. Like the fairies in this are not tricksters. They just like do what they want. And like he's like, "Hey, you like Tohu will come up as my favorite side character. He's just like, "Hey, you look kind of like a king. Why don't I make you a king?" And just like just why? Because he felt like it. Like is he the villain? Like I'm so confused. I
Maybe.
don't like he just seems like again, he's just here to party and have a good time. And I really like his chaos energy that he is bringing to this book where again, Mr. Norrell is the most boring and completely accurate to real life person to ever exist. Like
Yeah. He is very much the epitome of your classic fairy trope. Like Shakespeare just he's just a fairy who's out here just looking for a good time, ready to cause some chaos for nothing more than giggles. Um, because he can and he's bored or whatever, um, and to just mess with people because he's a fairy and they're people, and why not? Um, and it's a lot of fun. Like even if he is the villain, he's the fun villain. He's like classic animated Joker villain, where you love him, but you also know he's the bad guy because he's just having a good time, and unfortunately, the good time is at the expense of everyone else around him.
I've been enjoying him. I also literally have a note written down that it is around page 200 where I finally have my attention grabbed by this novel. And that is when Stephen Black thinks that it's when he's like very first been taken into the other realm for a night of dancing and revelry and thinks it's just a dream, and all the servants think that the house is haunted and like weird magical stuff is happening, and that's what finally caught my interest in this novel. So I like the gentleman with the thistledown hair in a
mm-hmm.
very I don't trust you at all kind of way, but you're fun.
Yeah. Who would have guessed the person that likes Loki likes the person with the thistledown
Shocker.
hair? Like
I was gonna say Emma was like, "Look, fun villain." I'm like Loki.
yeah. Yeah. Shanine has a type.
To no one's surprise.
Yeah.
All right. Any standout side characters for you?
Oh, what's his name? The guy that befriends Norrell to just try and get him to do little side tricks for society.
Drawlight.
Yes. Because he's just like, I just, like, you're just gonna boost my own social status. And then everything he tries to do, Norrell unknowingly, like, avoids or whatever. So, he's a lot of fun. Um, where is my tab? I'm looking for the tab that I have open in relationship to this. Um, but maybe I closed it. But yeah, he's one of my favorites.
As referenced earlier, I like Stephen Black. Um, is he relevant to the plot? I don't know. Like, we're 35 chapters into this book. He seems like he's going to be important, but, like, I don't know. Here we are. Like, is it confusing that there's a character named Stephen Black and another character named Jonathan Strange, and one of them's a wizard? Yes. Like, um, and but yeah, Stephen Black seems really cool. I like that the man with the thistlebound hair thinks Stephen should be king of London or king of England. Like, again, is this going to be relevant to the plot? I don't know. Like,
We'll see.
but yeah, this other person's in love with Stephen. I don't know. Stephen's like potentially going crazy because of going to the fairy world every night. But like, who knows? Like, I'm so confused. Like,
Yeah.
I really like Arabella, Jonathan Strange's wife. She's so sweet, and I love that they have like witty banter back and
mm-hmm.
forth. But my favorite scene with her was when she was talking to Strange, and she's like, "Yeah, I met this guy at Sir Walter and Lady Pole's. I don't know. He's always there. He's always trying to give me stuff, but I just say no because that's improper." And it's like she 100% would be like enthralled by this fairy if she were to take any one of his gifts. But she's just like, "No, I don't need a tiger. I'm okay." And it's
Yep.
so funny to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
She is
Yep.
like low key, high key, the most intelligent person in this book.
100%.
Of like,
Absolutely.
like every like again, is she the hero? Potentially, would not be surprised if that's the twist in the latter half of this book. But
Well,
like,
everyone else has book smarts. She has street smarts.
yeah, she is like actually competent.
Yeah. Everyone's like, sure, I'll mess with fairies, and she's like, nah. I'm fine.
All right. What is everyone's thoughts on Vinculus? I forgot he existed because he hasn't been here for, I don't know, 20 chapters or so. But then I saw him in my notes again and was like, oh yeah, he was
He's the
important at the
he's
beginning.
the arch nemesis that doesn't really have a major role so far. Like,
I mean, except kind of major.
well,
He,
like he disappears.
yeah,
He delivers a prophecy to Norrell and Strange and causes Strange to be interested in magic. I
He's
think that's
he
fairly
exists to be
major.
the catalyst for Strange to become interested in magic, and that's the only reason
That,
he exists so far.
that makes him a major
yeah,
player.
which
I
is
think.
why I think Norrell is the bad guy. Like, Norrell pushes Vinculus out of the city, thus creating Jonathan Strange to be his arch nemesis. Like, I like Vinculus. I mean, he's dumb, but like, he's dumb in a brilliant way as well. Of like, is he faking because everyone else is faking? Like, how much does he know? Like, has he just
Yep.
read books? Is he the Raven King? Like, and he's just like here having fun because why not? Like, We're ready to party with Vinculus. Vinculus
Yeah.
and the man with thistlebound hair, ready to party.
I always picture Vinculus as a little imp that just sort of floats around everywhere, which is great because he's not, but he's like in my head he just poofs in as this little imp creature, kind of like the ones from Hercules, and he just sort of floats around and spouts prophecies and then poofs out again. And that's just the energy that he gives in this book, and it's good energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed him. He also was part of one of my more favorite scenes in the beginning of the novel. Um, the scene between him and Childermass with the cards of Marseille. Um, just like exchanging prophecies back and forth, kind of.
Yeah, like they like fortune telling stuff, and like, yeah, that scene is kind of what cemented for me that I think he's the Raven King.
Or a descendant, or some kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
herald.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow like inherited that magic somehow, and like, yeah.
Has some kind of connection.
No, he's cool. I like him. Mr. Norrell's dumb. Um,
Yep.
do you think we will see him again?
Probably.
Yeah. I think it'll probably be like 300 pages from now. He'll show back up for a chapter, and then we'll like, oh yeah, that guy. Like,
This guy who's just kind of here and around.
Any standout moments of the first half?
Doesn't Norrell, like, not Norrell, Strange, at one point when he's sent, when he's in the army or whatever, he, like, half raises a bunch of dead people. Like, he doesn't fully erase them. But then they don't know how to put them back, so
Yeah.
they just sort of chain them up and send them off.
Yep.
And then the dead people are like, please bring us fully back to life. We don't want to go back to the place we were in. It was terrible. But they're just like, they're not dead, but they're not alive. And that's just because they couldn't figure out how to undo the thing.
Yep. Yeah, and that had serious D&D movie with the like
Yeah.
speak with dead,
Yep.
where it's like if you just never ask the third question, they never die.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. That was one of my favorite moments because it felt very D&D and just like, yeah, you could absolutely see that energy and just you're vibing with it so much.
yeah. Similar like time in the book, I've really liked the section where Jonathan Strange was at war. Mostly because I really like the creative use of magic here. Like we have the quote let me get it. Can a magician kill a man by magic? Lord Wellington asked Strange. Strange frowned. He seemed to dislike the question. I suppose a magician might, he admitted, but a gentleman never could. And like with that idea of like so often when we get magicians and stuff in books, they're like hurling fireballs and like all of these like truly destructive things. I really like this idea that like how are we using magic to help the war effort? I guess magical road. And like or you don't want to cross this river, so we're going to just move the river out of the way. Like
Yep.
and so I really liked that section. Again, it just is so like it's so different from what we're used to seeing from magicians, and so I thought it was a very creative section.
I've talked about all my standout moments so far. So, uh, any dislikes?
I mean, what's the plot? Like,
Yeah.
I am legitimately so confused
Plot?
of
What plot?
like, and like part of this, of course, it's the first half of the book. We are not like, it's three different sections, so we are like stopping in the middle of the second section, but like, I feel like I have no clue what is happening in this book. It is extremely well written, but like, I just feel like I have no clue what's happening. I would not finish this book if it wasn't for book club. Like, just based on the amount of time. Now, all that being said, Piranesi also really confused me for a huge chunk of that book, and Susanna Clarke pulls it off in a really cool way at the end that makes all of that
Yep.
really interesting. I'm hoping that's what happens here, but I looked it up. Piranesi, um, 272 pages. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, 782. Like, I can be completely confused for 2/3 of Piranesi, but being confused for like 2/3 of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is so much more book to be confused for.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, like, again, like, Piranesi, fantastic book. So happy that we
Great
read that.
book.
I hope this one pulls it out the same way that Piranesi did. But like, again, I just, that my dislike is I don't know why I should like this, because I don't know
Yep.
what's happening.
Yep. That is also my thing. As I've mentioned before, I technically started this book a long time ago and never finished it, and it's now sitting in a storage locker in Colorado. And I remember now why it's there is because there's just not really a plot so far in, and if it's a big book that's this long, I'm gonna want some sort of plot with some solid end goal that isn't just, hey, let's bring magic back to England, except there's one guy who's the only guy who knows magic who refuses to teach everyone magic or whatever, but also wants to bring it back. It's like, well, that's contradictory. So let's not do that. But yeah.
I've been having the same thoughts as well. I'm like, well, I mean, with Piranesi, we didn't know what was going on most of the time, but I think as we've been talking here, I feel like the difference is Piranesi, at least, like the character, had a goal that he was working towards.
Mm-hmm.
So we were moving somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, we didn't know who they were,
And
why they were doing that, what was going on, but there was a
We
goal.
had a we had a
Like,
destination we were trying to get to
yeah,
that
whereas
was
this,
tangible in some way, shape, or form.
yeah, Norrell and Strange are like existing, doing magic,
There's
living their
magic.
lives. I don't know. What are we doing?
We're we're just vibing with magic, and it's like, well, okay, that's cool and all, but what's the goal while we vibe with the magic?
I have only ever heard the most glowing reviews of this novel, so I'm still expecting good things about it. But I just at this point, I don't know. I don't know where we're headed.
just like for some other context, we did Dune for book club, and that was an effort, almost 900 pages. But like, Dune, there is such an overarching plot, and that book is dense, but like, it's a narrative that is going somewhere and wants to drive you through what is happening next. And I have just not felt that way about this book. Again, I don't really know why I'm supposed to care about any of this. And like, as we've joked, I don't know who the protagonist is. I don't know who the antagonist is. Is everyone the villain? Like, I really just don't know.
None of us do. We're all confused.
Everyone is
All of the time.
confused.
All of the time.
This reminds me, I purged the book title from my memory. But the book that we read that was about like comic books, where like one of the questions that you had for that one, Shanine, was like, did you figure out the mystery? And I was just like, I didn't know there was a mystery I was supposed to figure out. Like, that's how I feel about this. Of like, I just don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
All right. I think Emma and I are reading the physical book, and Cameron, you're listening.
I'm listening
You're
because
listening. Okay.
because my book is in Colorado.
All right.
I am
I'm
doing
reading
audiobook though.
the book, and you two are listening. Um, I'm interested how the experience is for you guys then.
It's fine. I mean, my entire audiobook experience is tainted by last month's, which was the adventures of
Amina Al-Sarafi.
thank you, Amina Al-Sarafi, which was an amazing audiobook. It's this is very much a good audiobook, but it's also a standard audiobook. Like it's a well produced, but it's not very exciting. Um, it is a little hard to keep track of all of the different characters in this one because there are so many with an audiobook. But it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah. I'll agree with Emma. I don't think the audiobook is as well done as Amina Al-Sarafi. But overall, I have really enjoyed this. I like that we are still getting the footnotes. I know we'll talk about that in a future question. I like how those are interjected. But other than that, I put this in the category of like, it's a well produced audiobook, but it's not really doing anything special.
Yeah.
Onto the footnotes then, because that was going to be my main question about the audiobook is how is it doing the footnotes?
So the way it's doing it is like whenever they would happen in the book, the narrator just interjects whatever the footnote was.
Yeah.
And
it
so
goes like footnote 1.
Yeah.
Blank.
And so it's cool. I'm glad that we have them. I don't know if it did this for yours, Emma, but for mine, it actually gave like a warning at the beginning that was basically like, "Hey, this book has footnotes. We're going to have them as you go." And like it's kind of funny, like it's funny and like kind of weird and confusing at first of like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
But based on the number of footnotes, I completely understand why they gave that heads up.
Yep.
But they're cool. I'm glad that that they're preserved into the audiobook in a form that isn't just at the end of the chapter we read through all the footnotes. Like that would be miserable if it wasn't like if it was spaced out that way. And so
No, the whole time I've been reading through the footnotes, I've been thinking of you because I was like, oh, like fake books in world and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plot twist, I really like the footnotes. Like this is like literally my jam of like again, I feel like Janine liking the Loki-esque character. Mine is give me fake in-world history that
Yes.
like in other books and all of that kind of stuff that like exists for like the sole reason of just being there. I'm in. And so yeah, I've loved the footnotes. I love how they're not remotely relevant like 90% of the time and they're literally just there to be silly. I'm all on board.
100%.
Yeah. Also, Secret Identity is the name of the comic book that we read.
Yeah.
I went to our YouTube and looked at our past book clubs to find it.
All right. Let's talk predictions for the second half of this book. Uh, any guesses on what this book is going to be about?
Any guesses on what this book has been about? Like,
Magic in
I'm
England?
so confused.
The dying art of
Yeah.
fantasy?
I really think something's gonna happen. It's gonna cause Norrell to snap, and then like what snap is gonna mean, I don't know, but like I really think something's gonna happen, and then like Strange and or Man with the thistle-bound hair are gonna have to stop Norrell
Yeah.
in some means. Again, I don't know what that actually means, but that's my prediction.
Mine is basically that this is going to be a scenario of using the Marvel example again. Ultron versus Thanos. Like these two big bad guys that just suck and are more powerful than everyone else. Just going at it with each other. Except they are the reason that the other one is a bad person. And yeah, that's my prediction. It's just Norrell and Strange going for each other's throats because things go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. My answer was initially going to be that I think fairies are somehow going to be at the center of the conflict. Not that they'll be causing it, but just their existence and the way that the rest of the people are connected is going to cause conflict somehow. Particularly because Norrell has straight up lied to Strange's face
Mm-hmm.
about fairies, um, and about like utilizing a fairy.
Yeah, for
Um,
like literally the thing that made him famous, like,
yeah,
which I guess we haven't like directly talked about other than like the recap, but like, yeah.
yeah. But also, I was like, man, like Norrell's such a bad guy. Like he lied to Strange about that, and I was like, oh, Strange did that too when he lied to Norrell about using some black magic in the war, like Emma was talking about. Some slight necromancy there.
You know, just some
Um,
casual
Minor.
necromancy.
No biggie.
so yeah, definitely a strange Norrell showdown coming for sure, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, do you think our fairy gentleman will manage to enthrall anyone else?
I think there's a good chance he gets Strange, like as like part of a bargain or something. Like that's
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that like for the greater good, um, Strange like lets himself be enthralled. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's my prediction.
Yeah, I definitely think there's gonna be some chaos with Mr. Fairy. Otherwise, what's the point in having a fun Mr. Fairy man?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have a fun Mr. Fairy man. That's essentially just Loki. We need a good
See
Loki.
that. I can see that. I can also see it being Mr. Norrell, not as a self sacrifice thing, but as a getting a taste of his own medicine
Mm.
type thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Because he kind of unleashed him on England, shall we say. Um,
That's I mean. Well, 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 if it isn't the consequences of his own actions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What will happen to the people that the fairy currently has enthralled?
I don't know, they just like party, go to the ball. Like, I don't know.
They're so
Um,
sad.
I
Have a
mean,
good
they wouldn't
time,
be if they
you know?
didn't leave the ball. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Um,
If
He
you
keeps
just spend
bringing
the
them
rest of
back.
your life partying at the ball, then what's there to be sad about?
yeah. We kind of get this with um, what's the woman that Norrell and the gentleman raised from the dead? Um,
Oh,
what's her
who's
name?
the ends up marrying
Yeah,
the guy?
Lady Pole.
Lady
Yeah.
Pole. I think there's a good chance that her and or Stephen Black have issues discerning reality from fiction. And that's going to be one of the things that introduces chaos in the latter half of the book. We're going to like potentially find out that other people have been trapped, and or the two of them start to have some sort of issue in their like delirium from being enthralled.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lady Pole is pretty much already there.
Yeah, yeah. Admittedly,
Um,
it's not a far prediction for where she's at, but
I so badly want Stephen Black to have a happy ending.
mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
he was like all set for like a good life at the beginning there, and then
Mm-hmm.
just, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a time indeed for that poor man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit. Where will we see Norrell and Strange by the end of the novel?
I think at least one of them is gonna be no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
Who? Unknown, if
Yeah.
not both.
Yeah.
Either that or magic's gonna be wiped from the planet forever.
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 Uh,
In air quotes.
yeah. I'm in agreement with Emma. With the exception of, I would call out one of them is not going to be like in our world.
Mm,
Like maybe not dead, but like I could see Strange willingly going to the fairy world or Norrell being taken there against his will, either as a prisoner or otherwise. I could see something like that happen if it doesn't leave with one of these two people being dead.
yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely see a fall from grace for probably both of them in the eyes of English society. Um, yeah, perhaps they will not be so gentlemanly about their magic in
Mm-hmm.
the end either.
Bum bum bum. This is so ominous.
Dun
Like that's such an
dun.
ominous way of saying that,
Dun!
Shane. Like,
All right. Any guesses on what Vinculus's prophecy meant?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember it at all. Like I
I
remember that a prophecy happened.
There's something about a nameless one.
Yeah, but like just in terms of like the specifics of the prophecy, I 100% forgot about it until you put this in the notes.
Yeah.
It's quite long. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'll read a little bit of it. Now I'm looking at this and I'm like, maybe he is the Raven King.
I'm telling you.
You might be right.
Be big brain.
Vinculus is gonna come back and kill everybody. That's what I think the prophecy means now. There's like, I reached out my hand, thought and memory flew out of my enemies' heads like a flock of starlings. My enemies crumpled like empty sacks. I came to them in a flock of ravens.
I'm just saying.
This is definitely about the Raven King.
He is definitely at least Raven King adjacent.
Yeah. Okay. And then here the two magicians shall appear in England. The first shall fear me, the second shall long to behold me. The first shall be governed by thieves and murderers, the second shall conspire at his own destruction. The first shall bury his heart in a dark wood beneath the snow. We saw that. Yet still feel its ache. The second shall see his dearest possession in his enemy's hand. And then there continues to be more. Interesting.
I'm telling you.
I'll have to copy it all out for the second half book club, and we'll be like, it was just Shakespeare's chorus of what we're about to be
Yeah,
reading.
that's it. It was literally just the outline of the rest of the novel. So
Yep.
All right. Any realistic or far-fetched things that will happen by the end of the novel?
The Raven King shall rise from the dead.
Yeah.
And shall remove magic from the world forever because it just got too hectic.
yeah, fully in on the Raven King will return, or has been here, or
The
like,
whole time.
yeah, something like that. That's like my big. I'd put that as realistic. Just with like it feels like Chekhov's Raven King, of like, you've talked about this character like in the background for this whole time, and then for them to like not show up would just be
Incorrect.
crazy. Like, and then yeah, I don't know if I have anything unrealistic. Everything feels unrealistic at this point.
Yeah. It's very true.
Yeah.
Any themes that you see developing?
The theme of what is going on?
I mean, like, the value of knowledge is definitely a big one.
Yeah.
Like, and this is like Norrell's whole shtick, is like, knowledge should be used well by those who understand it,
And shared.
but should not be
Value
shared.
of we should share.
Sharing is not
knowledge.
caring, as far as Norrell is
We
concerned.
should. We should educate others.
Selectively.
Yeah, that's like definitely a big one that comes out. I think there's a similar thing with Strange along the lines of like a good leader doesn't seek it out, but is like, but rises when when they are needed. And again, is he going to be a good leader? I don't know, the latter half of this book might confirm, but like, I think that's one that we're seeing as well, of like, where we have Norrell as this person that like very much wanted all of this. Like, Strange is on the other side as someone that like, this is very like thrust upon him, partially because of his personality, but like, this is something that like he was not seeking out but found him. And so, is that going to be a theme? I don't know. But like, here we are.
We'll wait. We'll just have to see. eventually.
Anything else that stood out to you or any quotes you'd like to share?
It's hard to remember where some of my quotes are that I bookmarked in terms of like in the book, where they are in the book. Um, but one of the ones that I marked that Cameron shared was, can a magician kill a man by magic? I suppose a magician might, but a gentleman never could. Um, and then one of the other ones was, time and I have quarreled. All hours are midnight now. I had a clock and a watch, but I destroyed them both. I could not bear the way they mocked me. I just think that's kind of poetic for life in general.
Um, I have a quote from the very beginning talking about the Society of Magicians, but like the ones who just study about magic and don't actually do any magic. Um, they were gentlemen magicians, which is to say, they had never harmed anyone by magic, nor ever done anyone the slightest good.
Yep.
Yep, accurate.
Again, is this like the most realistic depiction of what magic would be in real life? Probably. Like,
Yeah.
All right, what are your final thoughts on part one slash hopes for part two?
I hope we get a plot. A plot would be great. That's that's a both a final thoughts
yeah.
and a part two hopes is like there is hope for this. Like it's a fun world and everything, and I want to like it. I want to like the book.
Um, I'm there with Emma. And as I said before, the the switcheroo in Piranesi is so well done, and like completely changed my view of that book. I really hope that we get a similar thing in this book, where there is that moment where it just kind of all of our players like snap together into whatever the main thing is going to be. And I hope it doesn't take another 300 pages to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am also hoping that what felt like 500 pages of backstory starts to culminate into something exciting with all the second half. So I am hopeful. I'm holding on.
For a hero.
Well, then I'm for a hero.
Right. Our next club will, of course, be on The Rest of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke on August 29th. We are First Geek 411 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Join our Discord server or send us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out our Redbubble store and watch live on our Twitch and YouTube and find all our videos over on YouTube as well. Um, I am Hoot and Howl Tales on Instagram and Threads.
And I am not prepared with an I in the prepared on all platforms. Pretty much all normal platforms.
And I'm Humar Whittle, all around the internet, including Marvel Rivals. Let's go. Closed beta
Hey.
time. We're partying.
Read a book.
Drink some water.
Understand the plot.